Welcome to Massive Late Fee. And now your hosts, Mark and Carol. Hello everyone, welcome back to Massive Late Fee. It is April 2nd, 1994. I am Mark. With me as always is my co-host Carol. How you doing, Carol?
What's up?
So we've had a good week here at Massive Late Fee. Some interesting news in the news today. As you know, I have that subscription to the Los Angeles Times.
Tell us, what did you find?
Christy Brinkley was injured in a helicopter crash.
Oh my gosh.
Over early this weekend. Yeah, she was skiing near Telluride, and the plane crashed. 5 other passengers on board. They were stranded on the top of a mountain for 5 hours in windy, snowy conditions.
Yikes.
But they were rescued, and everyone only suffered minor injuries. You know, I hate flying.
I know.
You know that. But I have to say, the helicopter flying seems like it's maybe safer. I mean, it's weird to say after a story like this, but you rarely hear of them crashing.
Right.
And when they do, you rarely hear of people dying.
Okay.
Unless it's in the military, obviously, but they're in war zones and things like that.
Yeah, there's bombs and shit.
Right. So that's obviously a different situation, but civilian helicopter crashes, it seems like a lot of times they survive. Like they're able to just kind of bounce themselves on the ground or whatever.
Huh, I wonder why. Maybe helicopters don't fly as high, or
I think that's probably part of it, yeah.
so they're not falling as far.
So maybe we'll buy a helicopter one day and travel to Europe like you always want to go.
Okay.
I don't know if a helicopter has enough fuel to make it across the Atlantic, but
Probably not.
So also in the news, Star Trek: The Next Generation, as everybody knows, ended on Friday. Very interesting show. I've always enjoyed the show.
My mom is still in the fetal position crying because of this.
But good news, as I read, it's not even necessarily bittersweet, the ending, because they've already begun working on Star Trek Generations, the movie's going to be called, which apparently Paramount has decided they're now going to start the movie franchise for the Next Generation cast. So they'll still be together, still on the big screen. I guess William Shatner has a role in this movie. They talked about how he was sort of dressed up as his old character, Captain Kirk, on the next lot over as they were filming the end of Generations, and the Next Generation.
Interesting.
And also, they mentioned a little bit about Deep Space Nine, which I know is getting pretty popular. It's, popular for a Star Trek show. None of them are enormously popular, but, they have their place for sure. And that's in its 2nd season now.
Cool.
But also, interestingly, they are starting another Star Trek series called Star Trek Voyager. And this one apparently they're going to be in some far-flung area of the galaxy. I think maybe trying to get home. But the big rumor is the captain is going to be a woman.
Oh, interesting.
So, Rick Berman, who is overseeing things for Paramount, is not saying, but that's the rumor. So they have a 40-page treatment, I guess, and a show Bible that they want to go by, and they're gonna pump that one out too. Paramount wants to kind of take over the world. So the last bit of news is, as many of you may have saw on David Letterman, Madonna had a very interesting appearance on there, where she seemed to flirt with David Letterman at times, smoked a cigar, said the F word 13 times.
Wow.
People from the Letterman show, or I guess it was speculated, had said that she wouldn't be let back on. And one of the producers was talking about how, we might let her back on not to do, that kind of thing. But Letterman obviously is famous for being sort of a provocateur.
Okay.
And he asked her a lot about past boyfriends and people she dated and, sorted things from her past that are hot button issues.
Right.
But it was an incredibly amusing interview, I'll say that much. But yeah, the censors were working overtime on that. So speaking of TV, this week I watched an episode of Seinfeld. Fifth season. At the beginning, people didn't really gravitate towards this show. I noticed. I wasn't, I'll be the first to admit, I was not the first on the bandwagon of Seinfeld and his show. I missed several of the original episodes. I don't even know if I saw any of season 1. I've seen most of them, I think, on reruns at this point, but I didn't see all of them when they first came out. But now it seems like, it's definitely a big, popular, huge show for NBC.
Yeah. It's a great show.
So, a lot of times we try to focus on shows maybe you haven't seen or, shows we think you should check out. So it's a little bit different of a case this time. But, spring break is here. Spring is in the air in Michigan, and there are a lot of shows that are off now.
Yep.
It's difficult
They
to find them.
expect us to be outside, like, doing stuff instead of sitting in front of the TV. What the hell?
So, I watched an episode of Seinfeld called, I believe it's called The Wife. Yeah, The Wife. And a attractive, dark-haired woman was on the show playing Jerry's girlfriend, who pretends that she's his wife so they can get a discount at the dry cleaners.
What?
She's played by a woman named Courtney Cox, the one that was in that Pet Detective movie.
Oh, okay.
That's her. She was on it.
Yeah, okay, I remember her.
So they start arguing and quibbling like an actual married couple. Something I hope that we don't do when we get married one day.
But, I don't know, we already do.
But last week, like you said, you don't think that we're going to get married. That's what you said.
I didn't say I don't think we're going to get married. I just said I think that we're a little young to be talking about it.
Well, you don't ever think about it ever, huh?
I didn't say I don't think about it. I just said I don't think we should be talking about it right now.
Okay. Anyway, so they start arguing and everything, and it ends to or begets the disillusionment of their relationship.
Okay.
And so it's a very funny episode. Obviously, the show's very funny. Definitely check it out. Seinfeld, Thursday nights, NBC. You know where to go.
And the show that I watched this week was 90210. It was...
You're really on that 90210, aren't you?
For now. We'll see what else catches my attention, but... Yeah, I don't know how I felt about this episode, though. It was a little different. It took place half in real time and then half in the 60s, because Brenda found a woman's diary.
Half in real time, you mean half now? Or,
right.
Or half as in each minute of the show is a minute of real time?
I mean, part of the show took place in the 60s and part of the show took place in the 90s.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Because I was just thinking about how interesting it would be to have a show filmed in real time. Like, you could take a 24-hour period, and every hour of the show is an hour in real life, and you have 24 episodes in the season, 24 hours.
That sounds terrible.
I think it's a good idea.
That sounds so boring. Think about how much time you spend during the day not doing anything important or exciting.
All right. Well, I guess you got me there. So we won't pitch that show idea.
Okay. Now, she found a diary in her window ledge. Like, she has one of those, like, you can sit in it kind of windows.
Brenda's the Shannon Doherty.
Yes.
What do they call those? Bay windows or something?
I guess. And she, like, gets obsessed with reading it. And then in the meantime, spring break, all her friends are going skiing. And she says, she actually lies to them and says that she's grounded and can't go, which I'm sorry, she's in college. Who's grounded in college?
Who grounded you? The dean.
Right? But it's because we find out as the episode goes on, she just doesn't want to watch Dylan and Kelly together.
Oh, yeah. What's his name and what's her name?
Yes. Dylan and Kelly. Those of you who watch the show get it. But Luke Perry and... Oh, what is her name? The blonde.
I don't know.
We went through this last week. Come on.
I don't remember it anymore. I remember Luke Perry, Jenny Garth.
Yes.
Every time it comes to me like minutes after or seconds after.
So, yeah, it's the two of them because, Brenda used to date Dylan.
Yeah.
And she's friends with Kelly, so it's hard for her to watch them together. It makes sense. And, in reading this...
Kind of like it's hard for you to watch me with Sarah anytime I have to, like she passes me in the hall or whatever.
What are you doing?
What do you mean, what am I doing?
Why are we talking about that now? Like, are you just enjoying making me uncomfortable? Seriously.
Well, if you don't want to marry me, I think that...
Oh my god, I didn't say I don't want to marry you, you jerk.
Okay, so she doesn't like seeing them together.
And she's reading this diary, and it's like a mirror of her own life, but, in the backdrop of the 60s, like, the girl got arrested for being at, like, some demonstration and...
Letting a bunch of animals go to die.
Right, similar stuff. And, like, this girl also has an ex-boyfriend who's dating a friend, and, the...
And then the flashbacks, it's Shannon Doherty, right?
Yeah, they all
dressed up as the 60s.
Yeah, they all play characters in the 60s. And in the end, she actually goes and finds the lady who wrote the diary, which it's kind of cool. Like, she gets to see the pictures of the actual people and...
Is it Shannon Doherty in old age makeup, or do they hire somebody?
No, they hired somebody. No, they don't look like those people, like, when she gets to see the real pictures. But, she gets to find out what happens. So.
Does she have crooked teeth? The person they hired.
I didn't really pay attention to her teeth. You weirdo. Anyway, it was a weird episode, but I kind of liked it. I wouldn't want every episode to be like this, though.
Well, that sounds interesting.
It was.
90210.
Yes, sir.
That's the area code for Beverly Hills in Los Angeles, or in California.
Can you imagine living, like, Sunset Strip in 1969?
Yeah, I wonder... Man, buying property there would have been great. Yeah. See how much money you make on that. But, yeah, California was the big time area for all the college protests and stuff like that, and in the 60s, from what I'm told. Obviously, we weren't alive then.
Apparently also a lot of, acid and pot.
Yeah, well, you can find that now if you look.
Yeah, no, I don't think as readily.
I don't know. I mean, maybe not the acid, but...
I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but people aren't doing it on the school lawn.
If any police get a hold of this tape, we don't do drugs.
At all.
We're straight edge.
Very. I don't even know what liquor tastes like.
Right? Yeah, me either. So, the movie that we saw today...
I won. I picked. It was awesome. It was a chick flick. Yes.
Well, she won, and that ends her factual statements.
Well, I was not going to take away the reveal from you.
But it is 4 weddings and a funeral.
Yes.
Which lives up to its name because there are 4 weddings and 1 funeral in this film. A British film from Richard Curtis, who I'm unfamiliar with, but it stars a lot of people I've never seen in my life. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everybody. I am familiar with one person that's in this movie that we'll get to later. But the lead of this movie is a British actor named Hugh Grant, who's done some things here and there. What was it? It's the Merchant Ivory film, The Remains of the Day, was nominated at the Academy Awards, which we talked about last week.
Uh-huh.
He has a small role in that.
Okay.
And he's done other things in England. He's worked in the theater, he's done TV shows and other stuff in England. From what I gather, none of which I have seen, I don't think pretty much anyone in America really has. So this is kind of their first look at this dude. And Andie McDowell, who's been in a few other movies that I've seen. She's not a huge star, I wouldn't say, but definitely leading lady working actress.
Okay.
So the film is about a guy named Charlie, played by Hugh Grant, who is sort of lost in love, wants to find somebody that he really cares about, wants to fall in love.
Yeah, desperately.
As you mentioned when we talked about this off the tape here, it's sort of weird for a guy.
Well, yeah, because he's literally sitting there talking about how he's always going to weddings, but he never gets married. It's like always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but from a guy.
Yeah, it's not normal, not what you would consider what guys usually do. Like I told you, there are some guys that are like that.
Obviously. That
are lovelorn, but it's not the normal thing. So, yeah, that's an interesting aspect of the movie. But he meets Andie McDowell at the first wedding, which is the first event in the movie, and they have romance for a night, basically.
Well, yeah, because she's from America.
Yeah, she's from the United States. All the movie takes place in England. Almost all the actors are English. It's a very English film.
Right. And in the morning, he just sees her walking out.
So, before we get into kind of spoiling the film and everything...
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not talking about you. I was doing the plot summary. I'm not criticizing you.
Okay.
I'm just saying, before we get into that, let's do overall impressions of the film. What did you think of this movie?
Okay. I enjoyed the movie, but it was... maybe put together a little choppily.
I did not think you were going to agree with me on that, but you do.
Yeah, I didn't like the flow.
This film has a pacing problem, and it has a structure problem.
Yes.
It's very well acted. I liked it in general, but it definitely suffers from those two big problems. The film is sort of slow at the beginning, takes a while to build, which is a European style of filmmaking, and not necessarily bad, but it really ramps up and goes quick at the end. The ending almost feels rushed, because, not the very ending, but the last third of the film almost feels like we got to get through this, and we got to go to these different things. And so... I have a problem with that. And the structure problem that I have is that this is a whole friend group.
Uh-huh.
And the friend group is integral to both all the weddings and the one funeral. Mm-hmm. But I never felt like we got to know them.
Yeah.
The film hyper focuses on Hugh Grant's character Charlie, which is fine in some traditional narratives, but I didn't feel emotional connections with the other characters.
Right. I agree.
And I think that it would have been better if they had structured the film almost like the chapters, kind of. I don't even know exactly how to describe it, but let's say that Charlie is a character, and we follow him for a little bit. Then we switch perspective and point of view completely to one of his friends, Fiona. Or somebody else.
Right.
There are things revealed about these friend groups, or that the group of friends, as the movie goes on, that would have been more shocking and more emotionally meaningful had we known about them or seen them early.
Right.
Some of the stuff just comes out of nowhere.
I mean, like, when one of them actually dies, I felt nothing.
Exactly.
And that's bad.
And that should have been a big emotional scene, and the funeral... in the 4 weddings and a funeral should have been a big emotional scene, and it really wasn't.
And like, remember how you were kind of like, oh, they're together, like when we were watching. these two guys were together.
Yes.
And we had no idea.
And they don't even, and maybe that's the day and age that we're living in, where they didn't feel comfortable enough to flat out say it, but they really only kind of allude to it.
Well, you know, at the very, very end of the movie, like when the credits are going, we're walking out of the theater, they're showing pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a picture, the guy that did not die from the couple is with another guy getting a kiss on the cheek and like snuggling up. So I really think it's pretty much said there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's never overt through the film that they're homosexuals.
And you know, their relationship, everything about it, it just doesn't emotionally connect because we don't get to know them. So if they, you know, like I said, if they take Charlie and they kind of go through a little bit of time with him, and then the movie flips over to, say, the guy that died and his boyfriend, husband, whatever you want to call him, into their thing, and we get to know, oh, they're together, and here's a little bit of their personality and character development. And then we see Fiona, one of the women in the group, and we say, oh, we see her development a little bit. And we kind of get to know what she's after and what she wants. And then they all blend together. You know what I mean? They kind of all... I think the best way to structure this film would have been to see their lives outside of the weddings and the funeral.
It would have been too long, maybe, though.
I think you could have done it, though. I think you could have done it to where you see them and develop their personalities outside of these events, and then they blend together at these events. And then we can see them all interacting with each other.
Yeah.
And then they go their separate ways again. And you could have made it that a lot of this could have been cut out. A lot of the things could have been cut out, and this stuff could have been inserted in its place, I think.
And I think it almost throws it off even more that every single part of the movie, it's like, you know, the first wedding is at this time, and then it's 3 months later, it's the second wedding. Like, they mark it like that, right?
Yeah.
But then there's just a 1 month later, and they do something that's not at a wedding. And it's the only thing that they do.
Yeah.
That's not an event, and it kind of feels like, what was that in there for then? Like,
it's disjointed. The film is disjointed. So, Richard Curtis...
right.
On the off chance that you hear this,
of course,
next movie that you write and direct with a bunch of British actors in it, make it to where we get to see their individual lives and interactions with each other, and then they just kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
You know, or they're all interconnected in a certain way. That's a better way to structure this kind of movie that you're trying to do.
For sure.
But it wasn't bad.
No, I enjoyed it. It just definitely could have been done better.
So... we'll go through the structure. You can help me. We'll go through the plot. You can kind of help me with this.
Okay.
So he meets Andie McDowell at this wedding, told by Fiona. I think it's Fiona that says it, that she's a slut and she's American.
And she is.
You get a bit of an inkling that Fiona might have a thing for him, but it's so early in the movie you don't know enough about the relationships or anything for that to really pay off.
Right.
The way they want it to. But anyway, so she says that he still kind of pursues her. She's staying at some hotel.
Kind of pursues her. He hops out of a moving vehicle. Well, okay, I mean, he got them to stop, but shit. To go to the hotel she's staying at.
Yeah, one of the friends is apparently the 7th richest person in England. And he has a castle. And they were all going to stay there after this wedding. So she finds out that she's at the Boatman, this hotel. And he was going to stay there, but his friend had this castle, so they were going to stay there. So he changed his plans. So he changes his plans again and goes to the Boatman to stay there, since she's there.
Right.
He comes down. There's a pretty funny scene.
Oh, yeah.
Where she's sitting there in the chair. There's a little, lounge area in the lobby of the hotel. And there's someone serving drinks and cigars.
I want to stay there. That's pretty cool.
No kidding. But...
we're staying in the wrong places.
So why would we be going to hotels?
Mom, I never ever went to a hotel with him. Never.
So anyway, he sees her and asks, if she wants to have a drink. She says yes. He orders 2 whiskeys. And then this guy comes down that was also at the wedding, who is looking for her. So Hugh Grant looks back, Andie McDowell's gone. Or no, Charlie is her name, isn't it? Yeah, Charlie's her name.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
She's Carrie. He's Charlie. She's Carrie.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's right. So 2 C names. He's Charlie, she's Carrie. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay. So anyway, he looks, Carrie's gone. He's like, where did she go? And he says, oh, he's looking for her. The
Yeah,
one
he's
guy.
asking about her.
He's very boorish, drunk, and obviously his advances are not wanted. So the camera pans back and we see she's behind the couch,
Right.
hiding from him. So the guy brings over the 2 scotches, and he says, "Here's your scotch, and one for because he's
road."
Yeah, one he's gonna say for the lady, and Hugh Grant stops him and says for the road and everything, and so he grabs the drink, and the guy says, "Oh, let's drink together. I'll grab a bottle." And a few minutes pass, and the waiter comes back and says, "Oh, your wife says to come up right away, and in case you're so drunk you forgot the room number, it's room number 12." And he's confused for a moment, which is part of his character throughout this whole film, is like befuddled
Right.
but charming. And so he goes up, she's fine, she's in the room, they end up sleeping together, and she's got to go back to America. So then, cut 3 months later.
Yeah. Oh, and what ties it together? It's kind of cute. Like every wedding, it kind of ties things together. So
Yeah.
it was one of the bridesmaids is all depressed and like, I thought I was gonna get sex because I'm a bridesmaid. They said I'd be fighting men off, and this guy is like, well, I mean, I'm here, and she's like, I'm not that desperate. And by the end of the night, of course, they're making out, and now it's their wedding only 3 months later.
Yeah, that's the next wedding. So, so they go to their wedding. And you pick up the wedding here because I'm having trouble remembering this wedding exactly.
So this wedding, he finds out that Carrie has a fiance. He's all excited to see her again.
That's right.
And she's like, oh, let me introduce you to my fiance. And you can tell he just got punched in the gut. I mean, that's not the kind of surprise you want. And the poor guy, after the wedding, he's upstairs. He's hiding from some people walking down the hall, goes into a room. And then the bride and the groom. Now, he watches, first before this happens, he watches her get in a car and drive away with her fiance out the window, which is sad. Then the bride and the groom come in. And instead of making his presence known, which he should have done, he hides in the curtains like a little pervert. And then he climbs into the closet.
Are you trying to say that Hugh Grant's a pervert?
I'm saying that Charlie character's a pervert.
Okay.
And they have sex, and he's in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of an uncomfortable scene. I mean, like it was a little over the top with the sex.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, they stay clothed.
Yeah,
but the acting is definitely, they go for it.
Right.
I'll say that.
And then they're gonna go for round 2, and so he decides he's gonna let them know then. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Like, he should have just stayed hidden. I don't know.
Well, who knows how long they would have been in there. It is their honeymoon.
True. God. Okay. Well, anyway. So that was the second wedding.
But he meets her again.
Yeah, she came back.
Yes.
Without her fiance.
Yeah.
And they're sharing a cab. And then she says, do you want to come up for a nightcap? And he says, oh, I don't think we should risk it. And she said, oh, it's no risk. You're not that cute. And they have sex again.
Yep.
This time, he knows. So they don't even talk about it in the morning. They just kind of stare at each other and he leaves. It was kind of sad.
What do you mean this time he knows?
Well, because you find out later in the movie that she was already engaged when they had sex the first time.
You think so?
Well, she'd already slept with her fiance.
No. He was the number before him. That's what she says in the movie.
Oh, you're right. Okay,
so
never mind.
So I don't know if the movie's ambiguous. She could have been engaged when they first met, but she might not have been as well.
No, you're right though, because when she went through, listed all the number of guys that she slept with, and he was number
32.
Yeah.
And her fiance was 33.
Right. So yeah, you're right. She was single the first time, and she even said the first time when she's leaving, she said, "I think we both missed a good opportunity here," or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she was single.
So then we come to
1 month later.
Yeah, 1 month later, which is not a wedding.
Right. Where he just runs into her randomly.
Yeah.
Oh, not randomly. No, he gets an invitation in the mail to her wedding.
Yes.
Which, I'm sorry, bitch. Why would she invite him?
I don't know.
That's so wrong. I mean, she slept with him twice. Oh.
Once while she was engaged.
Right. So he goes to buy her a wedding gift. And he's in this ridiculously expensive store, by the way.
Yeah, well, I believe that her fiance is super wealthy.
Yeah, they said he has like a castle in Scotland or something.
Yeah, he's introduced as, I think, some sort of duke or something. The British terms of nobility I'm not really big on.
Right.
So I'm not sure, but...
Well, no, this is Scottish.
Yeah, but it's still part of the same thing. But anyway, like, however he was introduced, I believe, to a native audience, would have indicated that, oh, he's kind of a big deal.
Right. So, but I mean, still, not everybody you're inviting is rich, so you should have options for people who aren't.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway.
It's a very hoity-toity store.
Yeah.
With a very rude staff.
Very rude.
He says, because she says there's plenty of nice things for around 1,000. 1,000 British pounds, which is more than American money.
Yeah, isn't that like $2,000?
It's around there, yeah. And so she says, well, do you have anything for like around 50? And she says, oh, you can buy that statue over there. As long as you have a friend that can give you the other $3,950.
Right? Oh.
Yeah. She was very rude.
Very rude. So then he runs into Carrie there in that store. And guess what's on her agenda for the day? Wedding dress shopping, which she takes him with her to do.
Yeah, do you remember Pretty Woman? When Richard Gere takes her to the store and she's dressing up like that montage? That's sort of what this is like.
Except ugly dresses.
Yeah, ugly wedding dresses.
Yeah.
She at one point she dresses up like Little Bo Peep apparently. Or that's what it looks like.
Yeah, and then,
as a wedding dress.
And then there's another one that's not even like a wedding dress. It's like a bra top and something. I mean, it was like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, and then there's one that's just like an evening gown.
Mm-hmm.
It's not white. It's just it did not look like a wedding dress in any way.
It's all weird.
Yeah, the whole situation is odd. So, and he's late again.
He's always late.
He's late every single time. That's a running thing through the movie where he's late to every wedding. He forgets the rings at the first wedding because he's the best man.
Yeah.
And so he's late with his brother. His brother is deaf, which they reveal, or I believe at the first wedding. Yeah. First or second wedding.
Oh, I don't remember which wedding. I think it might have been the second wedding when the one girl says that he's like, a dish. And then she was talking to one of the guys and he's like, oh, I always thought so. Mm-hmm. But, he can't. And then she's learning sign language.
Yeah. She ends up learning sign language and knowing it for the next time they meet each other.
Which is super cute.
Yeah, that's a very cute. That doesn't go... I believe they start dating, but they don't get married or anything.
Well, again, the pictures at the end of the movie that I think you were not paying attention to.
No, I was getting out as fast as I could.
Yeah. They ended up together.
Okay, that's good.
They all ended up with somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And then... but... There's all these pictures of people getting married. Mm-hmm. Oh, never mind. I'm jumping ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
Sure. So then we go to the third wedding.
Wait. You're missing something very important here.
What am I missing?
So he's late to meet his brother.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He gets there. Mm-hmm. He's going in. And then he just turns around and runs out. He says, fuck it. And he takes off after her and tells her that he thinks he's falling in love with her.
Yeah.
And she just says, what, you're lovely? And gives him a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. That's important.
So then we go to the third wedding, which is her wedding.
Yeah.
Carrie's wedding to the Scottish guy in Scotland.
Yeah. He goes all the way to Scotland to watch her marry some other asshole.
Yeah, very weird. I don't know exactly how far away Scotland is from where they are because they don't make it 100% clear where they are. Again, this is another thing that probably native viewers could see, like, oh, that building, they're in London or whatever. But we don't know exactly where they are. Assuming they're London adjacent, at least around that area
Right.
of the realm, as they say. Scotland is, for those of you that don't know, at the northern end of the island, the very northern end of the island, towards kind of the east side, northern part of the Isle, and so it's not a huge distance, but it's distance. If they're driving it, it would take them a day, I would assume, to get there. I don't know exactly how far it is by car from London to anywhere in Scotland, but it's I would assume it's equivalent to us driving to, say, Nevada, or around there. Maybe not.
Nevada
maybe not
takes
quite.
days, not
Yeah, maybe
okay.
not quite that far. Maybe more like Iowa, Nebraska, in that area, Oklahoma,
Okay.
around there probably. That's my best guess, just eyeballing a map.
It's not close.
Yeah, it's you gotta travel to get there.
Right. I mean, you've got to go through some kind of inconvenience, and I don't know why anyone would inconvenience themselves to watch someone they think they might be falling in love with marry someone else.
But they do,
Yes.
and it's a grand affair and everything. And during the ceremony, one of their friends, this big jolly guy that's the life of the party at all these weddings, ends up suffering a heart attack, and he dies.
Yep.
And during the speeches at the
Yeah.
reception after the wedding. And so you see Hugh Grant tell one of the guys, and it's supposed to be emotional.
It's not.
It really isn't. It kind of that moment really falls flat.
Yeah.
So the next event is his funeral,
Yeah.
which all the friends are there, obviously. Carrie's there, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, they're everybody that we're supposed to see from throughout the movies there.
Is this the point where Duckface makes her first appearance?
No, Duckface has been around. She was.
This isn't where she breaks down, though.
I think she broke down at the second wedding.
Okay, so during the second wedding, she had dated Hugh Grant at one point, and she starts to basically turn into a psychopath.
Yeah, I mean, she's just like blubbering all over him and talking about like, oh, the way you used to like. This is the only thing I remember is the way you used to look at me, and it turns out you were just trying to figure out the quickest way to get out of the relationship, or.
Yeah, it was quite a scene.
Yeah.
But so the funeral, I know that the speech that they give and everything. Then probably the most important thing happens after, when they're by the waterside, and it's the rich guy and Hugh Grant. Mm-hmm. And they're talking, and he says that he admires about the rich guy that he's so confident that he'll find love. When he's like, what if it never happens? What if you already met the person that you're supposed to be with, and they're with somebody else? And he says that he doesn't really believe in that, as he calls the thunderbolt thing.
Yep.
And that, eventually he'll just settle down with somebody, and that's sort of his plan. And at first Hugh Grant's arguing, and he says, don't you think that if this funeral's taught us anything, it's that, people should look for the kind of love that these two guys had for each other. Which is when we first figure it out.
During the funeral, even though they said his best friend when they called him up, that's another thing.
That's what they categorized him as.
Yeah, his best friend's going to say a few words, and then he reads that poem. That was the only thing that made me a little emotional, and it wasn't in context. It was just an amazing poem.
Right. So yeah, you sort of get the idea that they're closeted, I guess, except amongst their friends.
Yeah.
But so he says, don't you think, given what we just saw, that you should go for true love? And then Hugh Grant kind of changes course, and he says, well, maybe you're right. Maybe, true love's overrated. Mm-hmm. Kind of like he's just going to settle.
Right.
So in the next wedding, you see what? Are we skipping something?
No.
Okay, well, the next wedding, you see the wedding card says Charlie, and you don't see the other person's name.
Yeah.
So they set a bunch of alarms.
10 months later.
Yeah. So they set a bunch of alarms.
Oh, yeah, this is funny.
And because he's always late, and it's his own wedding now. So they've set a ton of alarms, and he wakes up. His best man is laying next to him in the bed.
Right? Making sure.
His best man's not his brother for some reason. I don't know why exactly, but it works out anyway.
Right.
So they wake up, and he says, "Oh, we don't have much time." And Hugh Grant says, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "It's 9:45." And he's like, "It's 9:45. I told you to set the alarm for 8:00." And he's like, "Oh, we got 45 minutes." So he's rushing around. They get there, and they lied about the time.
Right.
The people are still bringing flowers in.
Yep.
Nothing's ready yet. He kind of turns and laughs and says, "Oh, you got me." And then that's when we learn that his bride-to-be is Duckface.
Yeah, his ex-girlfriend.
Which is what Fiona calls him. Oh, and we also learned that Fiona loves Hugh Grant's character.
Yes.
And has always loved him since the first moment they met and wants to be with him. I guess he doesn't want to be with her.
Yeah, they don't even, he doesn't even really respond.
Yeah, he doesn't really respond, and that is never paid off in any way.
Yeah.
So, Carrie comes to the wedding.
Yeah, so they're sadistic people.
Oh, yeah, because he invited her.
Yeah. And as soon as he sees her, he is all flustered because she tells him that she's no longer with her husband. In 10 months. 10 months their marriage broke up.
They're separated. Yeah. I think maybe she was a gold digger. She just wanted some money.
You think so?
I don't know. But I think it's plot convenience to get her to live in England now. But anyway, so... yeah, they're not together anymore, so now he doesn't know what to do. Now, the wedding's... everyone's there. The wedding's paid for. This is the day, and he doesn't know that he wants to marry her. Also, we get another payoff of something. The rich guy is one of the ushers asking people, bride or groom, which side are you on? And he sees this girl, and they just stare at each other. You can tell they're dumbstruck. It's that love at first sight thing.
Right.
They hit us over the head by him saying Thunderbolts time or whatever he says. Serious Thunderbolts or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't really need to say that, but
yeah,
they
do. It was obvious.
So he's fallen in love now as well. So Charlie goes into an antechamber, says bugger a bunch of times, which apparently is a really bad thing to say in a church, I guess.
He apologized to God first.
Yeah. The priest comes out and says, can I help you? And he says, I'm just doing vocal exercises because it's a big church. Anyway, so the other groomsmen come in, and he reveals to them what he's thinking. That he is not sure if he wants to marry Duckface, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head other than what that Fiona calls her. And they don't know what to do. His brother says there are 3 options. You can go through with it. You can go out there and tell everyone that it's off and to go home. And I can't think of a third option.
Right. And... oh, sorry.
No,
and then, he decides to go through with it, and he goes out there. And just when they ask if anyone, is going to object, has a reason that they shouldn't be joined, his brother, who can't speak, speaks up. He is using sign language and asks him to interpret.
What did you think of the brother's solution to the problem?
Well, he did it for him. It took the responsibility off of him. He made the decision for him.
But do you think it was the best way to go about it?
No, I mean, yeah, he should probably have dealt with it sooner. But whatever, he saved him.
So he interprets, says all the things that he's saying, where he says, I don't think that the groom is sure about the marriage, and that he might love somebody else.
Right.
And the priest seems offended by this.
Yes.
Because he's like, well, do you? Do you, Charlie? Do you love somebody else? And earlier, when he had been talking to Carrie, she had said, oh, you'll get through it. Just anything that anybody asks you, you answer, I do. And he says, I do. And then Duckface punches him.
Yeah.
So then
he deserved it.
So then we're at the house afterwards, and everyone's sort of trying to console him. Fiona, who never likes Duckface, says she feels sorry for her because what he did is pretty much unforgivable, and we agree.
Yeah.
So then there's a knock at the door. Charlie says, if there's music to face, I'll face it. It ends up being Carrie. She basically says that she wanted to see if he was okay. Mm-hmm. But it's clear that she loves him too.
Right.
And then he says to her that, would you not marry me?
Right.
And would you not marry me for the rest of my life? Is that something you could do or whatever?
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
He says, like, I guess marriage and I don't agree or whatever. But he was just the wrong woman.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be married all that time. And now all of a sudden he's just soured to marriage.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to show some kind of character arc and character growth and development, but we don't get enough foundation for that to really pay off.
And they really drive it home. This is what I was going to say earlier that was jumping ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end, there's a picture of him and her and a baby, following a ton of pictures of all the friends getting married.
So they're not married.
But they have a baby.
Okay. So he has, Hugh Grant in real life has a girlfriend that he's been with for a while named Elizabeth Hurley, who's an attractive English actress. And they're not married. And I don't know if they're ever going to get married. So I don't know if that's sort of parallel stuff.
Oh, maybe?
I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, she says, I do. Basically, she answers the question, not marrying him. But basically being with him.
Right.
And that's the end of the film.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an enjoyable movie. I liked it. It was, as far as chick flicks go, it was different. It was a little different than normal, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was good enough, but as I said earlier, pacing problems. Like I said, as we kind of rush through the plot, you can kind of see everything from around the end of the second wedding, like third wedding, funeral, fourth wedding on. It's very rushed.
Yeah.
Everything else before that builds pretty strongly. But yeah, so the film has a pacing problem in that way, and the structure problem. We don't know enough about the homosexual relationship, the homosexual couple. We don't the surviving member of that couple. I don't know anything about him,
right?
Other than he was with that guy.
Yeah,
that's the only character information I really have of him. I can't even remember his name. And Fiona, she was in love with him. If we had seen her pining for him, if we had seen things from her point of view, and maybe her interactions, like you just show her on a date or something like that, and Hugh Grant's character comes in. Maybe he's on a date with somebody else, or maybe it's a time where he had seen Carrie, and they had gone out to have something or whatever, and you kind of see her wistfully look over, and the boring conversation from the guy she's with sort of fades into the background as she's staring at him. And we get an inkling of she's never going to be happy in a relationship because she loves him.
Well, she's said over and over she's never going to be happy in a relationship because she loves someone who doesn't fancy her back.
Yeah, and then we get to see her character growth. And so at the end of the movie, when she's open to being with someone after he's with Charlie, that's character payoff.
Carrie.
After he's with Carrie, that's character payoff then.
Right.
So that would be, like I'm saying about the structure, that would be a way to structure the movie better. And then we get more emotional weight to each of these characters.
Yeah.
The only actor that I know from this movie, as I teased earlier, is a guy that's in one scene very briefly in the first wedding and performs the second wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Hilariously. His name is Rowan Atkinson. He plays a character called Mr. Bean that is been on British television show, but I know him because we're lucky enough to occasionally get the BBC here from our Canadian neighbors in Michigan. I saw him on a show called Black Adder that was on a little while ago, a few years ago. Brilliant show. Hilarious show. I don't know where you'd find it. I don't know if it's on tape anywhere. I think you'd have to special order it from a catalog or something, or find someone that has it taped or whatever. But if you can find Blackadder, check it out. Rowan Atkinson is a comic genius from different things. He can do slapstick and silly stuff, completely serious, very dry British humor stuff. He runs the full gamut, and he is very funny. So he's plays a very small role in this film, but is very good in it. What do you think? Would you have any suggestions, like structure wise? I mean, do you think I'm kind of on the right track with seeing these characters a little more individually so that we can get emotional connection and growth from each of them?
Yes, but I mean, I don't think that it would necessarily. I think the movie would not tell the same story because it would turn into like a 4-hour movie if they did.
I
By
think
doing that.
I think you could do it without making it a 4-hour movie. I think you could cut out some of the. What you'd have to do is cut out some of the Carrie Charlie stuff.
But I like the Carrie Charlie stuff.
I do too, but you'd have to isolate more their encounters specifically, like with the two times they sleep together, the meeting his fiance and stuff like that. You'd have to. It'd be like just a few moments, and you could still make that the centerpiece of the film. Mm-hmm. You just cut out a little more of this. There's a lot of extraneous stuff from the weddings and things like that you could cut out. There is one thing that's set up that's paid off kind of nicely in the last wedding, where in every wedding we hear them say, "If anyone objects to this wedding, speak now." And then, of course, at the last wedding, someone does speak up. The deaf guy,
right,
quote unquote, speaks up. So that does get paid off, is that we hear that every single time. So we kind of are prepared for that being an eventuality. That's one of those things where if you see it and then you see the problem in the last wedding where he's not sure he wants to marry him, you can say, "Oh, someone could object,"
Yeah.
So that's kind of a nice setup and payoff for that.
Yep, overall, I think it was a decent movie.
Yeah, it's a cute film. It's doing pretty well at the box office. I think it was projected to be number 5, something like that. The number 1 and 2 movies in America we did not want to see.
No.
There's D2, The Mighty Ducks, and I would have liked to have seen Major League 2, but Carol did not see Major League 1 and does not care about Charlie Sheen or baseball.
Well, it's not that I don't care about Charlie Sheen. I really don't care about baseball.
Yeah, she's not a big baseball person. So, Major League, the original, was hilarious. I don't know what the sequel's going to be like because we haven't seen it yet. I don't know, maybe we'll watch it next week. Maybe that'll be my pick. I don't know. We'll see. But we will end this week, as we end every week, with our blockbuster picks of the week. This week, well, you go first with yours, because I have a little more to say about mine, I think.
Okay, well, my blockbuster pick of the week is My Boyfriend's Back, which is just, super cool idea, where this girl's boyfriend dies and comes back as a zombie, and they're still trying to be together. So, I would recommend it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it's one that we saw last year when it was in the theater. It was one that I had low hopes for. Carol is kind of into zombie stuff.
I like horror in general, and even if it's not scary, just kind of...
I like horror too, but I'm not so into zombies. I liked Night of the Living Dead. They re-released it at one point in the theater, and I saw it with my sister.
Okay.
A few years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. And I enjoyed it, and it's a good film, but I'm not huge on zombie movies. But this one was cute. An interesting twist. Yeah. A romantic, comedic zombie film.
Right.
So the one that I picked is a film that I saw in the theater as well last year. Carol hasn't seen this movie yet, I don't believe. Have you seen it?
No.
You can say if you did you?
No.
Okay. It's called Dazed and Confused. You sure you haven't seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
What? I mean, like, why are you being weird?
I don't know. You had this look on your face like maybe you did see it, but you just don't want to tell me because you went to the theater with another guy or something. I don't know.
No! God, paranoid.
Anyway, so Dazed and Confused takes place in the 1970s. It has a smattering of young actors in it. There's some dude named Ben Affleck. There's a guy named Matthew McConaughey that's in it. I can't remember the name of the young guy that's in it. The sort of the star of the movie. And there's a girl in it too, Joey Lauren Adams. She's in it, and Jeremy London, Jason London, Jason London. Jeremy London's his little brother.
Okay.
Anyway, so they're all in this film, and it takes place in the 70s, and this guy is starting his first week of high school, and he's getting hazed. Like, he knows his sisters told him and everything that the seniors are going to haze him, and they do, and it's brutal. Like, they have Ben Affleck's a sadistic character, and he's got a paddle where he beats the new freshman whenever they find him on the street. They're like, "Oh, freshman, stop the truck," and it hits him with paddles and everything.
What the fuck?
Oh yeah, and Joey Lauren Adams is like terrible to these girls. They spray him with hoses and stuff. It's terrible. But there's a big party in the woods. This guy's first high school party and everything he goes to. So it's sort of a rollicking adventure kind of film as far as it's going through their day and they're getting to this party and stuff. And there's a lot of pot smoking. There's a lot of humor based on the fact that this is the 1970s and they didn't know what we know now in the 1990s. There's a lot, that it's kind of lame when you do that a lot, but there's a lot of that humor in there. Like there's a girl who's clearly pregnant, who's at a convenience store, and she's buying beer and cigarettes, and the guy behind the counter says to her, make sure you eat a green thing every day for the baby's health. Not saying anything about buying the beer or the cigarettes.
Right.
Obviously, that'd be a lot different now. But, in this, I think beer is a bit of a stretch, even in the 70s. But I know in the 70s, they didn't know that smoking while you were pregnant could be harmful to the baby. Obviously, now, if you're smoking and you're pregnant, you'll get some sidelong glances from people.
I know your mom said, like, she used to hold you while she was smoking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and she smoked when she was pregnant with me. And my mom was pregnant during the 70s with me. And they didn't know. They just said no. They had no clue. They knew smoking was bad. At that point, they knew smoking was bad. Although information was slow getting out about that, but they didn't know all the like. Now they're talking about secondhand smoke, where like if you smoke around somebody, that can be harmful to people. They didn't know that back then. They didn't know if you smoked when you were pregnant, that could be harmful to babies. There's lots of stuff they didn't know then. So that's sort of part of the humor too. But it's a very funny film. And it's, it has some 90s sensibilities to it, but I think the era that we're living in right now in the 90s is, I don't know if I would say a cynical edge. It's different than the 70s. The 70s were freer, a little more relaxed, I think, about things. And I think that's...
Obviously, if you're pregnant and drinking beer and smoking cigarettes.
Right. But I think that's why this film takes place in the 70s, to capture sort of that aesthetic of being, relaxed and everything. But it's a very good film, very funny film, and one I would definitely recommend. And the Hyde, I think, what's his name? Clyde? I can't remember his name. The character that Matthew McConaughey plays.
I have no idea. I never saw the movie.
He is a creep. The biggest. There's one point in the movie where he says, "That's what I like about these high school girls. I keep getting older and they stay the same age."
Ew.
Yeah. So, but it's a very funny film. Check it out at Blockbuster now.
Alrighty.
So that is our show for the week. Thank you for listening to our show. As always, If you want to donate to the show, you can put some money in Carol's locker in an envelope. If you have anything to say to us about the show, you can put some feedback in my locker. Pass these tapes around. Let everyone hear it. Tell a friend. Give them the tape and say, hey, this is a show called Massive Late Fee that these two people do, and they talk about movies, and you should definitely listen to it. It's all the best of the 90s. So, yeah, really hype us up. We appreciate that.
All right, have a good week, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.